Here are the top 6 reasons for popping and clicking noises in your shoulder if you have a rotator cuff tear. Number 1 is the tear itself. The job of the rotator cuff muscles is to pull the ball into the socket part of the joint. And if you have a tear on one of those muscles, the ability to accurately pull the ball into the socket is changed. And so that ball might be pulled in at an angle slightly, which will change the congruency of the joint. This can add abnormal movement to the joint, which creates friction, and friction can create sounds inside the joint. Number 2 is a labrum tear in your shoulder. Deep inside the joint, right around the socket part of the joint, is something called the labrum. It's a piece of cartilage. It's this rubbery tissue that's around the socket that helps to provide stability into the ball and socket joint. If you have a rotator cuff tear, then chances are that you're probably going to develop a labral problem if you don't take care of it. So if you have a labral tear, because the labrum helps to provide stability to the ball and socket joint, then that stability is going to be altered and you're going to have some abnormal movement inside the joint, which can create popping and clicking noises. Number 3 is a stuck joint. The ball and socket joint itself can become stuck because if you have that abnormal movement, because if the tendon isn't right or the labrum isn't right, the ball may not line up exactly in the middle of the socket. It might just be slightly off. That will develop compression on different surfaces than where you're supposed to get them, and the cartilage on the ends of the bone can get compressed and stuck. And so if you're sitting still for a long time, or if you are asleep all night and then you begin to move your arm and wake up, it isn't uncommon to get a big loud clunk or pop noise going through the ball and socket joint because it's unsticking because it was stuck before. There's other joints that can get stuck, like this collarbone right here has a joint right here at the front where it connects to your sternum, your chest bone. That joint can pop and click too if it gets stuck. And then where the collarbone connects out to the shoulder blade bone out here, there's another joint, and that can pop and click too. And then the shoulder blade itself is rubbing on the ribs on the back side of the body, and if it's not moving properly because the muscles that control the shoulder blade are affected too, which is usually the case with the rotator cuff tear, it's part of the muscle imbalance, then you're going to get abnormal movement of the shoulder blade against the ribs, and that can cause some popping and clicking. And usually that's a repetitive one where people can say, look, every time I move my shoulder blade like this, it kind of makes a funny noise. Watch, clunk, clunk, clunk. That's a more common problem coming from the shoulder blade against the ribs and the tendons and muscles that are between the two. Speaking of the shoulder blade, number 4 is something called scapular dyskinesia. Now this is fancy medical terminology for bad shoulder blade movement. That's what scapular dyskinesia translates to. When it comes to movement in your arm, whenever you're reaching up overhead or forward or any direction with your hand, your shoulder blades should kind of move with your hand. It should go up and back and forward and even down a bit. And if your muscles that control your shoulder blade are not strong the way that they should be, if they're not in balance, then that movement is not going to be the way that it should. And even though your hand still is going to go forward to open that door or to reach for that thing or to reach up to do whatever you have to do to wash your hair, if your shoulder blade doesn't move the way that it should, then you can get some abnormal movement in related joints that can cause some popping and clicking noises as well. And number 5 is tendons shifting over each other. There are lots of tendons. Tendons connect muscles, the red part here, to the bone. And when those tendons all rub over each other, if there's bad forces going through them because of muscle imbalances, then you might get some noises coming out of that, some rubbing noises. People will actually get like grindy, rubby noises. Sometimes there's like a clunk or a shift that's felt within the body. That is coming from a muscle imbalance, which is actually the root of this problem. More on that at the end of the video. And number 6 is the beginning stages of osteoarthritis. At the ball and socket level where the surfaces touch, there's cartilage. That cartilage can begin to get worn down. And if you have that mechanical problem where the ball isn't sitting right in the center of the socket because there's something torn, the labrum's torn, or the tendon's torn, or there's muscle imbalances affecting it, if you consistently are getting it stuck over and over again as months and years go by, you can begin to wear down the cartilage because it's not designed to work that way. And so that will begin to develop some irregular surfaces on the bone and cartilage, and that can become the beginning stages of osteoarthritis. If you have that, it's usually visible on an x-ray, and it can become kind of noisy to move your arm every time you go to move. And as I mentioned earlier, the root problem here of all of these issues, all 6 of these issues, is a muscle imbalance. That's what sets up a rotator cuff tear out here. When your upper trapezius muscles, your shrugging muscles specifically, that's the main muscle imbalance that happens, when it gets too weak, it doesn't allow the shoulder blade to move right, which starts to get the joints stuck. It starts to put too much tension to the rotator cuff tendon. It puts a lot of tension to the labrum as well. It makes the ball and socket joint and the joints to not move well. And so it makes them stuck, and over time you can create arthritis situations. If you can fix that muscle imbalance, then you have an excellent shot at decreasing the popping and clicking noises in your shoulder, as well as healing a rotator cuff tear problem naturally and protecting yourself against osteoarthritis in the future. If you want more details on how to fix this problem, I've got a whole playlist of advice, tips, exercises. Down in the description below, there's a rotator cuff tear help playlist. It's got all our videos linked there from YouTube. I've also got a program that has our entire treatment approach in it. It's called the Rotator Cuff Tear Recovery Program, and it's a comprehensive program that has everything that we do with a patient to get them to heal from the rotator cuff tear naturally without surgery. You can find the link to learn more about that in the description below as well. Hey, thanks so much for watching. If you thought this was helpful for you, please give us a thumbs up. Please share this with somebody you think needs to see this. And don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel and hit the notification bell so that you don't miss out on any of the helpful videos we post each and every week. Thanks so much for watching. I'll see you in the next video. Bye-bye.